So hello everyone. My name is Mickey, also known as Cell Phone Wallet Keys, on the social media because you can't leave home without me, right? So I am a assistant editor for the comic book division at Nerd Initiative, and also editor for our toys and collectibles division. So this was like a good spot for me because you're dealing with Lego and comics. They're kind of both in my wheelhouse. I was like, man, that would be a great way to bring both together in one thing with Tri Vong. So I just want to introduce him and I want to thank him for coming on. He's the author of Lego Garmadon and soon to be Lego Shatterspin, correct?
That's right. Yeah. Also, I'm intimidated by your toy knowledge, so hopefully
Oh no
I get
no no
this
no
right.
no! It's cool. So just to kick it off, if anyone listening, which I doubt, isn't familiar with Lego Ninjago, and they're picking up a copy of Shatterspin or Garmadon, what would you tell them to know before going into it?
If they're not familiar with Ninjago, right?
Yeah,
Well, hopefully, nothing. Like, hopefully, they can just pick it up and enjoy it as a
that's awesome.
standalone comic, enjoy it
Yeah,
as an adventure. We really tried hard to make it accessible to new readers. It's I think this I'd like to think anyways that the series does a good job of introducing you to the characters and the world, and pretty soon you're just sort of hopefully sucked along into their adventure. And as long as you enjoy like martial arts action, have a passing familiarity with Lego, so you're wondering why these characters are tiny little yellow brickmen, I think you should be good.
that's cool. um, so you've already done Garmadon, and this is kind of like a prequel. I take it,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
young
yeah.
Garmadon story, and so it's kind of like a new chapter in the universe. We got like a little taste of it, I think,
Mhm.
in Garmadon, but now you're going to expand on that, right?
Yeah, we that was sort of what was kind of enticing for me to work on this project was that uh Garmadon's probably, I don't know, in my opinion, I think he's like the best character in Ninjago. He's definitely a fan favorite. But we don't there's whole chunks of his history that fans have never like they've hinted at. There's like tiny little flashbacks here and there. We see the younger version of him, but
Yeah,
we've never seen exactly like we see him as this young man, as a boy. We see him briefly as a young man, and then all of
yeah.
a sudden he's just this, the villain of Ninjago before hitting his own eventual redemption. So there's just like a lot of stuff to play with, a lot of questions I had, and then I guess in this case I got a chance to answer some of those questions for myself as well.
It's got to be pretty intimidating, or maybe it's not to have to come up with those questions yourself, because I'm sure a lot of people and fans have questions
Mm.
about that, and then like it's on me. Like, is there any pressure behind that?
Oh, well, the questions, no, but the answers, yes. The answers, well, I think partly because we were given quite a free reign with from Lego to at least like pitch um, our own answers, and they were very open minded to what we could bring to the table. A lot of the nervousness kind of went away or subsided with just by watching a lot of seasons. I think I watched 10 seasons of Ninja.
Yeah.
I think that's what I did for 2 weeks. I watched
Oh
10
wow.
seasons of Ninjago back to back until I try to become as familiar as I can. And I mean, there's always Lego too.
Yeah.
You can always ask the lore masters if they need to we need to clarify anything.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool resource to lay on it. And that was actually a question I was going to have is, did you have any restrictions when doing this stuff, or is it pretty much your sandbox to play in, you know?
Um, it's not definitely not my sandbox. But it was a sandbox I could play in for a while, and I could build whatever most sandcastles that I wanted.
Yeah.
In terms of restrictions, mm, somewhat. I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but
Yeah, yeah, I
in
understand.
Shatterspin this time we really tried to um, we tried to make it so it kind of tied into what was kind of happening in the TV show that
Okay.
that would be coming up at the same time. So there was just a lot of more moving pieces we had to kind of like align and make sure I did not contradict some plans later on.
Yeah.
Um, the other restriction was just like trying to find that balance because with the comic we tried to age up the Ninjago slightly, like maybe fans of Ninjago, they're starting to grow out of the TV show a little bit. We could kind of tell a little bit more of a mature, slightly darker story
Hmm.
with the comic, but we obviously we don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
It's still Lego.
But it still makes for, an intriguing story just to be able to,
Yeah,
at least peek behind that curtain or touch on it. You just don't have to go too far.
for
That's
sure.
a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. We just hint at some of the darkness.
You do the art as well, right?
This time around, I shared some art duties. The
Okay.
first time I penciled, inked, and wrote it. This time around, I just wrote and penciled it.
Okay. Do you
Yeah.
find any like do you run into any problems having to with like physics or biology as it comes to doing these Lego minifigures? Or is it, I mean, it's all fantasy. I can do whatever I want anyway.
Oh, they're so hard to draw.
Oh yeah.
They're the hardest things. I'm not even kidding. They are the hardest. The minifigs are the hardest things I've ever drawn as a
Okay.
professional artist. Just because like this is a really iconic design. Um, they're
Yeah.
also very limited in what they can
Yeah. That's
actually do
yeah.
in real life. Yeah, so you're constantly trying to figure out um, ways around it. Like you cheat a little bit, you squash and stretch them a little bit, but there's certain things that those characters physically they can't do. They can't kneel. They
Yeah.
can't sit cross-legged. They can't. They can't hold something. Like they can't hold something far above their head because their heads are so big. So you have to kind of like, well, I can stage it somehow. Like there's sort of like the comic, the craft that comes is like, well, I'll hide it in this moment, and then, or if it's an action scene, it's really dynamic, but we can kind of blur it somewhat because they're moving so fast, so we don't get a clear idea of what their hips are doing.
Yeah.
So there's ways around it, but it was very, very tricky, and still something I'm after uh, two miniseries. I'm still like, still kind of struggling with a little bit.
That's pretty funny. So like I said, I do a lot of like toy stuff too for Nerd
Mm.
Initiative. And so I was just curious, it's a classic toy. It's iconic. It's been around forever.
Mhm.
Were you a fan of them at any point in your childhood or now? Or what's your history with Lego per se?
Oh, yeah. I think like every kid, I don't know if it's possible to grow up without
Right.
Lego being like
Yeah.
somewhat part of your life. Although, like, I think maybe back then, there wasn't like, it was like Lego Space,
Yeah.
Lego Medi. There wasn't a storyline. But you tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I don't think there was really a storyline attached to those early toys. But I had the especially the space one that they
Hmm.
re-released recently. I have it actually. I have the toy, and I can't remember the name, but the big blue one.
Oh yeah. I know Shatter.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I have very fond memories of it, and also I didn't have a lot of Lego either. So whatever set I had, I just sort of combined eventually and made my own toys, which is the magic of Lego.
Yeah. Well, that's always fun. That comes into the creative process, right? Building something
Yeah,
yourself. Um,
yeah,
yeah. A lot of those early toys. Yeah. There was no storyline there. They were just, but they were big though. Like space was a big deal when Lego dropped, and it kind of expanded.
yeah,
That was almost like a jumping off point for them. They went huge from there.
yeah.
Uh, just veer off just a little bit here for a second. Is there any other like toy franchise or established franchise that you would want to jump in at some point and create for, like you did Ninjago?
Oh man. I mean, yeah, like so Ninjago. So I was definitely aware of Ninjago before I watched it with my nephews. Originally I enjoyed it sort of through his eyes, but
Hmm.
when researching for this, I became a legitimate fan, and I realized that Ninjago is this generation's version of Ninja Turtles. This is what I'm sort of getting into, like that
Yeah.
whole era of toy properties that I think probably we probably love the same ones. Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles, Transformers,
Yeah.
G.I. Joe. I mean, even like the obscure ones. I just like like that Saturday morning era of cartoons. Just like I think that's where I draw a lot of my creative inspiration from. Robotech or Macross, a lot of the 80s, 90s anime
Yeah.
stuff, Gundam, or
Oh
even
yeah.
if you go a little bit, yeah, for sure. Like anything from that era, I would be super interested in.
That would be cool. Um,
Yeah.
does any of that stuff, find its way like inspiration wise into what you're writing now with Lego Ninjago?
Um, if it does, not consciously, like I
Right.
don't sort of,
Right.
I think back to that. I think the clearest one was once I made the connection. I don't know if you're super familiar with it, but when I was watching season 8 of Ninjago, I think it was season 8 or season 7, the ones with Sons of Garmadon there, that's when
Uh-huh.
I really made the connection with Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And then I was that kind of informed a lot of my decisions at that point
That's
of
cool.
how to approach this.
Yeah. Okay. Getting back to Shatterspin, um, the book drops July 24th, right?
Mhm.
Uh, is there anything you can share with us about the story outside of it just being a prequel for Garmadon, or the big an origin story, sort of?
Yeah. What can I say without any spoilers? I think you're gonna see this one's a lot more the first Garmadon was sort of a self-contained, almost like a Ronin, wandering Ronin type story.
Yeah.
The scope of this one is bigger. He travels into another realm, and also we'll see him in a role that fans never seen yet. Really, like the first
Okay.
time he kind of becomes at least a teacher as a young man. He taught as an old man, but this is the first time he's kind of taken anybody under his wing, and we see the beginning sort of of his philosophy a little bit and what he'll become.
Okay. That kind of leads and kind of answers part of the next question I had, which was, is there anything you kind of wanted to do different from Garmadon running into this? I know you don't want to change anything, but
Mhm.
was there something you're like, I would like to approach this differently or anything like that?
Um, Good question. Not overtly. Like I think what worked the first time, I just sort of try to
Yeah.
expand more. So I try to make the fight scenes more dynamic. I pushed I found the limits of what Ninjago could be, and I would try to push it a bit
Yeah.
further until somebody's telling me I'm breaking it. This is breaking the mold a little bit, and then I would scale it back a little bit more. Yeah, so I kept the same approach.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I guess I would say, what would be like your pitch to someone that's going to be going to their local comic store, looking at the shelf? Why would they pick up Lego Shatterspin?
Okay. Well, if they're a Ninjago fan, I think this we first of all foremost we make these comics for them. Like
Mm,
the idea is just to give them make them something for them that they'll love about these characters that they love. This will be a chance to see Garmadon in a way that he hasn't been portrayed yet. It'll feel like a giant hole in his history, but also the history of Ninjago itself.
yeah.
And then for other readers, I actually, in some ways, because I'm kind of one of them too, because I came to Ninjago later in life. I think I'd like to think that they'll get a really satisfying action adventure story with hopefully what I would consider is just, really good art. and 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 yeah, and they can just hop on and just go along for the ride and enjoy the story for what it is without feeling like they need to understand all of Ninjago.
Yeah.
But also, if they do want to dig deeper, all that, there's,
Yeah.
15 seasons of TV shows they can dig into.
Yeah, there's a lot of lore behind that stuff.
There's so much. Yeah.
um, what was the question I was gonna? So I know what it was. Have you taken any inspiration from the toys themselves at any point? Did anything hit you as like, I want to use that in my books or in this book?
Um, yeah, I built when I was started doing Ninjago, I built a lot of Ninjago toy sets. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't meant to, like I'm not looking at them specifically, or
yeah,
then I would make, but it's something just kind of like so I can kind of fall in love with the fun of the toys.
yeah,
And I always keep like some. I have one right here. I always kind of keep one
yeah,
or two or a bunch of them kind of around me so I can sort of look at it or pick it around and look it around because it's like I said, it's such a tricky I guess property because you don't want to change too much. Like they're just so iconic.
hmm
They're the perfect design. I don't know what you can do with a Lego minifig, really. That's kind of it. But then I also have to break them a little bit so I can tell the story as well. So it's a constant back and forth.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. You gotta
Yeah.
crack a couple of eggs, make an omelet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
uh, um. So yeah, just to tell everyone, Garmadon was great, and I like that you said you're making this just something you could just pick up and start reading. That's really cool because again, a lot of backstory, a lot of lore. It's good to just pick something up. And Garmadon was one of those Lego figures that's very unique in that he's got like
Mhm.
two torsos and four
Yeah.
arms. So he always drew my eye, even though I wasn't doing a whole lot of reading a lot of Ninjago or watching it, but my kids were, and
Mhm.
he would always
Mhm.
catch my eye at the corner of the screen. So great
Yeah.
character pickup, great character to read. Uh, it's amazing that you took, just basically he was kind of like a regular old villain, right? Like pretty flat in most stories.
Mhm. Yeah.
To see you expand on him in such a way, it was really cool. So yeah, thanks.
Oh, thank you. I mean, yeah, I guess like to be reductive, he's kind of almost initially almost like a Darth Vader
hmm
kind of knockoff. But I don't know. Eventually, as I kept on watching the show, I just found him like really funny, like unintentionally funny. But
Yeah.
he has no sense of humor at all. And the more serious he is, the funnier he seemed to be for me. So it was just really fun to write him. Yeah, because you cheer for him, but it's also a character that you kind of enjoy seeing fall in his face a little bit too. So uh, those characters are always great to write.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I mean, it's short and sweet. I'm going to wrap it up right there. Uh, I really appreciate you stopping by and talking to us. Lego Ninjago Shatterspin from Skybound Image, dropping July 24th at your local comic stop. I would highly recommend picking up because the art and the story in the first one were really, really good. Very impressive for, Lego minifigures, as restrictive as I wanted to know how you got around that. You did a great job. But
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for coming by, and I hope on to the something bigger and better.
So, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Try.
Yeah.